Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are and where we come from. So who are you and where'd you come from?
I'm Yasmin Coakley and I'm from Eastwell.
Yasmin, welcome to my home, to the table.
I can't believe I am finally here.
I know, but we did such a miscommunication. I thought you were coming back to me with a date, and and then thank God, last night I was just like, I'm just going to ask her for the last time, and if she doesn't want to do it, she doesn't want to do it.
And I'm like, going, what the fuck happened? She told me like that she was going to contact me after the confirmation.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then she has all these other people on. Okay. Did she just say, oh fuck, I don't want to her anymore?
No, like I was so desperate to get you on. Yasmin, we both know each other because I asked you to come on my live show because of what you were doing with your therapy, and I just loved everything about you on Instagram. And I think it's not just that you're beautiful, it's that you have a beautiful soul and you have a beautiful way about you, that what you were doing really kind of resonated with me. That I'd be very comfortable around you. So I was like, you know what, I think because what we were talking about on the live show, just for you, just to break that down for us, and that's what we did. But before we start, just take it all the way back. Eastwell, but where did you grow up and with who?
So, I was born in Joseph Mansions in 1984 to Paula Johnston and Christy Coakley, and I was the second born. I came 6 weeks early, and I was a crier, according to me man. But yeah, we moved out of there when I think I was 4, and we moved into the North Strand flats, James Larkin. My mum and dad did. I think there was 4 of us at the time. And yeah, it was great. Like, I have great memories growing up, and in the flats. I think the flats are always you just remember your childhood, just always being in the flats, playing rounders, with all your mates.
I know Beverly Coughlin said to me, like when I had your ma on a ship with me a while ago, and she was like, Rebecca, you've no idea, Paula. She's like, Paula looked after every child in them flats. Yeah. She was like, if you had a problem, if you were hungry, if you needed anything, you went to Paula.
Absolutely. That's who my ma was. That's who my ma is. She was always like that. Her door was always open to absolutely everybody. She'd welcome any child in. She'd always say, like, we'd never stay out in anyone's houses overnight, but we used to have about 10 all the time in my ma's. And my ma just always loved kids and loved, like, our house was always full of kids, feeding kids, or anyone used to just come up to me ma, knock at the door. My ma'd welcome anyone in. She used to have the Jehovah's Witnesses every month. They'd knock with their magazine, and you'd come in after being plain, and there'd be 4 of them in the sitting room, all sitting there drinking tea, and my ma be entertaining them. So yeah, we'd had lovely memories growing up. Danielle, my sister, she was always like me solely. She looked after me. I don't think we ever had any major fights, like killing each other. We'd probably push or something. She used to do this thing where she'd grab you up into a chokehold. And and I remember once I hit her with a high heel across the head.
Oh my God.
And she when I was making me first confession, she told me I had to tell the priest. And then I had to I told that one confession nearly every time I got into the confession box. Best be farther, for I have sinned. Hit my sister with the high heel across the head.
Stop.
Yeah, that was always my confession.
And then you were saying that if you're having a chat earlier on about your mum, so she's now, your mum is a Christian now. And she's heavily involved. Like she's, because I met her and I've spoken about this before about how I feel about God and all. And have you seen a change in her, or was she all?
Absolutely. My ma's always had huge faith, Rebecca. Always. Always had a real, I think she always kind of prayed and had that. Over the last few years, she really turned to God. And then, she was real spiritual, and she'd do a meditation and that. And then a couple of years ago, she just kind of, You know, it just trauma after trauma was unfolding in their house, and she kind of really turned to God then. And I just seen, like, for the first time, like, me ma never would have ever put herself first. You know, anybody who knocked at her door, me ma be there. Constantly I used to say to her, well, why don't you not train to be a therapist or something, because your door's open to everyone, like, you know. But I'd say probably exhausting herself, you know, because she would have been like that, you know, always wanting to help others all the time, but to the detriment of herself. You know, it really was. But then, you know, and taking on my nephew, taking on so much. Like, my dad left the house, like, when I would have been about 10. I think it was about 10 or 11. And he had little or no kind of involvement, you know, was kind of very inconsistent for years. And so my ma reared us, you know, on her own. So it was hard, and she struggled, like, to look at her. My ma, like, would have done job after job, cleaning job after cleaning job. So she exhausted herself a lot, you know, just to make sure we had everything, but a lot of stuff to the detriment of herself. And we always used to say to her, every year, I think all of us would write in a card, you know, our biggest wish for you this year is that you choose you. And within the last couple of years, she just started choosing herself. And with that, I think her whole life just started to change. And it was gorgeous looking at her, like, so emotional, looking at her going in and being baptised, like, when they put her into the water, like, the video, it was like, just, you know, it was a real cleansing of some sort. It was beautiful, though.
Do you know what I have to say? And I don't know if I'm right in saying this. I don't think they make women like your ma anymore.
No.
Like, I don't even think they make inner city families like they do. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you know what it is? It's community has just gone, Rebecca, you know? And I think, you know, when you think years ago, we always ran in tribes. There's a huge lost sense of community out there now. You can see it everywhere. I remember growing up in the flats to summer projects. It was always community, always community. And you just don't see that anymore. You know, people don't look at each other in the face because they're looking at their phones. They're uncomfortable even doing it now. That was never the thing. Everybody always looked after each other. There was always that huge sense of community. And I remember my mum was always part of that. You know, always on the committee, always at every summer project. She'd look for, done all that. Remember going all our trips. Was, you know, that was the way I would have remembered growing up. Where now it's just sad. People don't even, if they see someone in trouble, they're afraid they'll get something happen to them. So it's fucking crazy out there now. But yeah, there is a huge sense of loss of community, I think.
And then tell me, with your dad leaving, like, did that have a massive effect on you growing up, or?
No, it's crazy, Rebecca. I've done loads of work on this, you know, through therapy and that, but I never really, like, I always used to say, oh, I don't know, just didn't really bother me. Like, obviously, because my dad's drinking started to have a huge effect in our house. So it was really, like, becoming problematic that he was drinking. And my dad was a big soft, you know, never put his hands on us or done anything. He was just an alcoholic. And his drinking just became so problematic in the house. It was hard. And my mum be coming in from work, and like, my sister Danielle would be after looking after us with cooking and doing wherever she had to, because he just never came home when he was meant to, you know. So that was hard. So I remember I was always, like, getting real angry at him and really annoyed because I idolised my ma. So I had a very disconnected relationship with him because I would have always been, like, my ma's friend. So it was hard, like, seeing how he was constantly, like, letting us down and them down. And so, because I kind of would have took on a real role as being older, you know, in that sense. And so when he did leave, I was kind of delighted. I know that sounds mad when you're that young, but I was. But then obviously, you know, I probably wanted some sort of relationship with him. But at the start, that was it. Like, he just, you know, obviously he broke up with me and Ma, so we kind of broke up with us. So we'd see us when he wanted to on his terms, and then he met someone, and then he moved abroad. So it was just, it was just a period of. So I think in those moments, I just decided I wanted nothing to do with him. And I used to walk by him in the street and all, and Yeah, I was very angry. I remember sitting in therapy and saying, I don't know, I just don't love him. I had this mad sense of that. I never, you know, I carried like me brother's pain as well, my brother's pain and the pain of them. I never really looked at, you know, what I needed. And last year I went and done ayahuasca, and during that ceremony I seen me as a little girl, and I seen the time that I actually decided to disassociate was when he took us to his new apartment, and he just left us, and Danielle was looking after us again. And it was in that moment I went, he's never going to do that to me again and hurt me. So I disconnected completely and just disassociated and told myself this story that I didn't love him, I didn't need him. That I carried that story and believed it true to myself, like wholeheartedly. I believed I didn't need him or want him. And it was only last year when I seen that, and it was my abandonment wound that he had left me. And I seen like every little girl wants their dad. Every little girl deserves to have a dad, you know? And I think, yeah, it's great. My man did a brilliant job, but we have men and women in the world that are there to do jobs. And the role of a father, I think, is as equally as important than, you know, just the mother. So when I really walked through that wound last year, I gave loads of forgiveness, went through loads of, you know, walked through so much of it. And yeah, so within that, I wouldn't say I have a relationship with him, but I carry nothing anymore. Like, he's my dad, I love him, and I know that it is what it is, you know. But yeah.
It's so hard because even you and I have had conversations, and like, my heart's breaking for your little self, you know, like we've had these conversations about my brother and stuff like that, and you know, I have abandoned him now because of reasons, and you said to me, but maybe me, and I get it, but at the moment with everything that's going on, I don't have time to go back to him, but so I don't feel for him. And how you've gotten, and that's probably just a story I'm telling myself.
Absolutely.
Just to so that I am not hurt, or I'm not, like, you know what I mean.
And then protect yourself, Rebecca. We all tell ourselves a story, and that's what I always say to my clients even. And this story will protect you and it serves you. But when it becomes detrimental to you and it starts having cause and effect, like you start getting snappy, or you're angry, or you're having explosions because it's not working anymore, this story, you know, then you have to start looking at then what's going on. And that's, you know, usually what leads people to therapy is the story they've been telling themselves for years is not working anymore, because it's protected them. You know, people say, oh, you know, negative coping behaviours. I always like to use the word protectors, because they have served you, they have helped you when you don't want to look at your pain, when you don't want to face that truth, and they're your protectors. And it's when you start to look at that, you know, I mean, I think people do say, oh, I only want the truth, but do you? And you know, you don't. You know, I think it's a fucking hard pill to swallow at times, the truth. So we all protect ourselves. So, you know, it's have compassion for yourself, and you will come to that, because I think with all of us, you know, we can only go so far with the story that isn't our authentic, true self.
And then if I can take it back, because we're talking about clients and all that, and we'll go into that and talk about what you're doing today. Then take it back then, Danielle, did you, and with her doing everything in the house and your ma out working on, did you still have like good time? Were you wild, or like teenage years? And
like, I remember the time my ma was, my ma went to work, and my ma had, Christopher was only a baby at the time, and we were in our uniforms and we were in the flats at the time, and Danielle was minding us, and we were actually in the bedroom singing all of our religion song, you know, Harambe, all the religion songs, and we were singing them to Christopher, and we seen a mouse, and we started screaming all over the place. So with that, my ma, bag and baggage, we all have to leave, evacuate the house, the mouse is in the house, and my ma was getting us all out, and me and Danielle went and stayed in my nanny's. We were in my nanny's bed, and I was always a wind-up Rebecca, and I was in the bed, and I start putting my hand up her back and rubbing it like it was a mouse. And my nanny got out of bed, and Danielle started screaming, there's a mouse in the bed. And my nanny jumped up and said, that's that little cunt that started clattering me around the room.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was always doing. I was always kind of a bit of a prankster with them. Like when I was younger and we lived in Joseph Mansion. Now I was very young then. We had bunk beds. So what I used to do is I was always a pissy fuck. And I used to piss in my bed. I used to piss in my bed or piss in Danielle's bed and then get up to I'd get down and say, Danielle's had to wet in the bed. I used to say, did you wet the bed again? And Danielle would be like, no, I didn't. Because Danielle was so good, I didn't. Yeah, I did awful things. I was a mad prankster.
What was your school life like?
Primary, it was okay, but then it became hard around 5th or 6th class because I started being bullied by a girl, and it was becoming a bit intolerable in 6th class. Like, she'd use words like, you think you're fucking massive, you think you're this, or push me, and just loads of different stuff. And I couldn't wait to get out, you know. And there was so much happening within the house as well, in my ma's. So I was very uneasy. I think at that time in my life, when I look back, I remember just feeling just like I couldn't control it. And I didn't know what to do. My ma was so like consumed with so much of that stuff. My brother was starting to get into trouble, and lots of things were kind of unfolding. And I couldn't wait to go to secondary. And my first day, I remember my ma was after bringing me, and she did 2 French plaits in my hair, and she brought me up to up in Manor Street, Grants, to get me jumper. And I walked in, and I didn't know whether I wanted the plaits or not, because I thought I looked very young in them, you know, when you go from that. And when I walked in, these girls that were after being bullying me, they were meant to go to Marino. They arrived into King's Inn, and I literally, like, my jaw dropped. It was like, felt sick. And then it kind of went on till third year, back and forth. And I started going less and less to school. I didn't want to be in school. And I started kind of becoming a bit wild then. I was going out when I was about 13. Started going out very young, with a friend of mine who was older. So, and I loved being with older people as well. So I started kind of, get myself into odd situations. And I actually remember I was in third year, and I came in, and I was actually had to be out the night before, so I was kind of hungover in the classroom, and she started at me, and I remember standing up, and I just stood up and just lifted her over in the classroom, and that was it. Stopped. That was it. But Jesus, I used to dread when I'd walk into that classroom. Remember after I lifted her over, I flew up the stairs to Danielle, because she was in 5th year sweating, thinking she was coming after me.
And isn't it like how like kids today, and even now that with Amelia being in going into secondary now, I'm terrified for her because of people who are like that, who just have no regard for anybody else and just want to make someone's life hell.
Yeah, it's hard. It really is for all the kids. You know, it really is. I've clients that are only 16 and 17, and it's savage. Like, even when I was younger, it would have been, but I think social media is fucking horrendous for young kids. You know, you can look at the positives of it, but just when I do listen to their story, you know, the pressure and the fear that they have around even posting a picture or anything. You know, it's savage out there for young kids.
And you're a mum yourself, aren't you?
I have 4 kids.
4 kids, how old kids?
21, 17, 15 and 6.
God, what was that like, Stu?
Well, I was 17 when I had my son. And I think he saved me.
Saved you from what?
Saved me from, I was very wild. I met his dad when I was 16, and it felt like he saved me in a way as well, because I was wild, so it settled me down. I remember when I got pregnant at 17, because I would have been wild, you know. Danielle was always the real sensible one in the house, and so I would have been wild. So I think when I got pregnant, him stopped me. You know, it stopped me going out. I was using drugs, drink. I was just mental, you know. So when I got pregnant on him, I just became a real mammy. It was like, I loved every minute of it. when I think now my daughter's 17, Jesus, I should be like, how? When I look at her, like, how would anybody even hand a baby to someone that young? But I felt like he did. You know, he really did save me. I became really in tune with myself and started really wanting to do stuff and all for myself. But I did sacrifice a lot of stuff till later on in life to rear me kids, because although, like, you know, my ma had to work all them hours, so she wasn't present as much as she needed to be, so that was hard. So I always said I was never going to work full time, so that I was there for them part time, you know, to give them their dinner. And me ex at the time, my ex-husband, he was in a good job, so it was okay to do that. So it was good, like, you know, I was full of gratitude that I could be there for them, because I know for a lot of people that work full time, it's fucking hard, like, when they want to be at home.
And then, so married life and separated and all of that. Is this why you did all this kind of therapy stuff that you'd be doing? Or
I know, I started me kind of thing with therapy back in 2009. But before that, I'd always been real inquisitive about the mind, and I loved it. And I remember there was these Trinity college students that used to come up to the flats to help disadvantaged kids with English. But one of them, he was a wacko. He just used to come up and just talk to me, because he was like studying psychology, all about the mind and all about this, and we very rarely did English. So that kind of set me on a path in something in my head. And then I just always used to say I wanted to be a counsellor, but I thought it was about me just giving advice and talking all day long, because I love to fucking talk. Like, I love it. Can you tell? But and then when I started, I done like a diploma in DBS, and then I was going to go on to do my degree in DBS, but I didn't. I went on to PCI to do my degree. I did 3 years in my degree, and I deferred my final year to get married. Couldn't wait.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I deferred my final year, and then after that, life just got in the way. I wanted to go back and do it, but money was scarce. Just took me right off the path of what I wanted to do. And then after I got married, then I really wanted another baby. And I was, I think I was trying for about 2 years for Ryan. And like, I'd previously got on the other 3, because I had a 10-year gap. I'd previously got pregnant so quick. So that was hard during that time. And then, in 2018, I went back to finish my degree. Did the 2 years, and after that, I was like, right, I'm going to just now get a job, and and then I'll do like 1 day a week doing clients. But then my page just kind of people just start asking me through my page. It kind of took off a bit last year, which was good, because it came at a good time, because my marriage broke down then in January last year. And I think that was probably, apart from losing my best friend, probably one of the worst pains I've ever felt. You know, recovering from that has taken me nearly 2 years.
How do you come back from that? Because there's so many women and men out there that have gone through it, or gone through, not that it's your case, a betrayal or anything like that. How do you come back from that?
Do you know, when you've been with someone for 23 years and they're literally in your bones, you know, and you choose to say, I can't do this anymore, and you kind of then live in your truth, that's the hardest part, because you have to be accountable too. You know, you're deciding that this is not, you know, because I wouldn't have never really chosen myself much, that when I decided to do that, it was like really, really hard. And I remember the days after he left, just like panic, and the weeks even, the panic was in me, was like, my anxiety was at its a fucking peak that I never felt. Just fear, you know, how am I going to do this? How can I do this? And I'd say anyone would have given me attention, even though maybe I did get that, but I didn't want it. It was something bigger. I knew that I needed to do this. I knew I couldn't keep going around the story. I was like, there's no way through this. I have to go through this pain. You know, I can't keep going. It's not that bad. It's not that this. I need to go through this. And it was fucking horrendous. Probably, as I said, the worst pain I've ever endured. Like, you know, loving someone so much and deciding that you can't be with them anymore was very, very painful. Really painful. I mean, like, you know, when you have kids that need you as well. So I think, like, with the page kicking off and distractions, and even you asking me to come on the show at times when you have little or no hope, you know, when you've had the security of someone for so long in your life, and I always would have thought I'd never survive without him. I'd never survive without him. That was always something I just always, you know, when I knew, I probably knew I was staying longer than I needed to, but telling myself another story. Because of all that. And when I went, no, I actually can't, deciding to do that pain, I remember just unbearable pain on days, you know, for me, for me kids, for the expectation that I had of this life that I was imagining that was going to be my forever. It's like, you know, cutting it and trying to navigate your way into some new reality that just, you're like, what the fuck? But it's been the most beautiful pain as well, if that makes sense. Because within that pain, I really did, as fucking cliche as it is, really come home to me and find me. And I threw the kitchen sink at myself to heal, because it was like, this is it, give me it all. Ayahuasca, Kambo, therapy, sunrises, sunsets, yoga, Reiki, give me it all. I need it all, you know, to pull out everything that I can get through this. Because when you are going through it, I always say self-care is paramount. Self-compassion and kindness to yourself will really, because my nervous system was always like just all over the shop from a young age, because inconsistencies have grown up. So creating safety for me was something I've only started to do over the last 2 years, is to feel safe in me.
And when we talk about people who get strength and they say, oh yeah, maybe I got it from my ma, or I got it from my dad, I got it from... Do you think you've got that strength from all the work that you've done on yourself?
Yeah, definitely. It was like, I became, like, I have such a great support system. My sisters are amazing, my ma, my friends, they're all, I do. But I did detach myself during that period because I needed to heal. And I needed to drown out the voices around me. And that's really, when you are healing, you know, you kind of do start moving away, because when you have so many opinions and people, it can be very hard to hear your own voice, to find that intuition, that little voice that was inside me. For that to get louder, I needed to just quiet everyone around me. And I did feel very lonely at times. But it also, I could hear myself, I could learn to trust myself, I could build safety in myself. And through that, you know, all of last year was kind of the most intense of it. Would have been the worst of it. This year, it was hard as well, but not so much. Because I felt like I had me tools. I felt like I kept pushing through, even when the doubts were coming in. You know, when they come in fucking hard, your mind will keep playing tricks on you. Keep telling you, don't do this, don't do that. Remember this, remember that. You know, just to kind of, because your mind is just trying to protect you all day long, you know. And that's one thing I always kind of bring back to myself, is that's all my body is doing, and our bodies are fucking amazing at trying to keep us, you know, away, because it just is detecting danger. So with me being able to, you know, soothe myself, you're all right, you're okay, get my own mantra, was part of the healing for me, to feel safe in myself and create a life that I'm still navigating through at the moment, I suppose, which is very much different to what I seen for such a long time. So it can be very hard at times still, I suppose, yeah.
So for you to get on that stage with me that time must have been absolutely huge.
Huge. It was huge. It was huge. It was huge. It felt brilliant because, do you know what? I've never spoken public since my auntie Tammy was getting married years ago in North William Street Church. I'd say there was about 250 people in the church. And at the last minute, I was only 11 or 12, I got asked to do a reading that a fella didn't want to do, and I said yeah. And I got up onto the altar to do it. And there was a word I couldn't say. And I went back 4 times to say the word. And I couldn't say it. Mm-hmm. I broke down hysterical. Right? Mm-hmm. And Natasha McKeever's dad, Jimmy, had to come up and get me and carry me down. And I mean, I was hysterical. I never spoke in public.
My God.
Till I done your show last year. I never spoke again. I used to be terrified to ever speak up. The fear, even I remember when I was in college, having to do the role plays, I used to get myself into some state.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And was college not tough for you? Because did you leave school then? Or
I left school, yeah. I left school in 5th year. I left school in 5th year. I got a job in the Rotunda Hospital as an orderly. I swear to God, I loved it. It was a brilliant job. I swear, we used to fly around giving the breakfasts out to the mothers that was only had the babies. I worked the labour ward loads of times, so you'd go in after someone had a baby, give them the tea or toast, scrub down the bed and that for them. I loved it. It was brilliant. But I was out partying all the time. I used to go in still up.
Hilarious.
I swear to God, I used to go in still up. I was mental. So yeah, when I left school, so that was a big thing, me going back to college, you know, was because of the academic side of it. Many different things in my way that I was thinking, doubt myself all the time. Like there is sometimes I still think, not so much now, because I've, you know, I'm getting all right now. But I used to think someone's going to knock on me door and go, no, you know, that's all a lie. You never done that. You never done that degree. Even though I remember at the time when I was finishing it, me and my ex-husband had separated. Before we finally separated, we were broke up for about 5 months, and it was during COVID, and I'll never forget it. I was trying to do my thesis and having Rain sitting on my lap, literally typing away during COVID and thinking every assignment I'd hand in, I'd say I'm not going to pass, and all the research I done and all. I don't with a fucking 2-year-old,
You must be incredibly proud of yourself, are you?
I am, yeah. Now I am. I actually, yeah, I can say that quite confidently. I am, because it was hard, you know. I did feel like I was never going to get there, but I knew I was just needed to push through the other side of fear.
Can I ask you about your friend that passed? What was that like?
Horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. She was my husband's sister, and that find it weird saying my husband or my ex. I keep going back and forth, you know, when you're still unsure. My ex-husband. So when we were that February, his sister died. We just got a phone call in the middle of the night in February to say that she died, and Lisa, who was my friend, was still alive at the time. And it was horrendous. His sister Karen had passed. She was only 30. Just fell asleep in her bed, and he didn't know. I think they said it wasn't suicide or anything, though. But that year, Lisa had a heart attack in 2018 or something, and she was me. I'd had a big 40th for her in my house, and I was glad because we'd lost contact on and off. We're always still friends, but she kind of was on another path for a bit in life. But we did, you know, at the end, all of us, all of our friend group, we kind of reconnected with her then, and it was lovely. It was I don't know, it was just mental that it all kind of came together. So we had a big 40th for her at my house. It was brilliant. And then that was that after the whole party, the August to February, Karen died. And then the August or the July, Lisa took another heart attack, and she was in hospital, and me and Thomas and the kids was in Ibiza for 3 weeks nearly, and they were doing loads of tests, and they wanted to bring us in for a meeting. And when we were over there, we got a phone call. My mum was at flying over to me. I was at to bring my ma over, you know, for a few days, because there was so much that was after happening in my own family. And we got a phone call to say she was taking a stroke, and they thought she was dead. So that was horrendous. I remember jumping up hysterical. I couldn't breathe in the middle of Bamboo Coo, running with the baby in my arms. I wanted flights out of there to go home. Anyway, they got her to Beaumont. They were able to take, you know, they take the stroke from, wherever they done. Yeah, they said it was a blessing. Yeah. So she was saved, like, and then they wanted her to go to. I'm getting emotional.
Take your time.
It's just the pain that be still so raw. She
Paul, is that box of tissues there? I'm just kidding.
Sorry, I'm all right. When we went for the meeting, when we came home, they told us that you know, she couldn't have a heart transplant. That she'd kind of been covering how bad she was. They'd been trialling her with loads of different medication over the couple of years, and nothing was working for her. But she kind of kept it all to herself. She was really like that, you know, private. And they told us in the meeting that there was nothing they could do for her, and she wanted to go home. And they said they were going to put her in Francis Hospice. But I've always been so angry about this, because they said you might get long in Francis Hospice, you know. But she just wanted to go home. They said if you go home, you mightn't even last a week. This is your best opportunity. And she was terrified, because she was so used to it. She was weeks in the matter in her own room, in the heart place. And this is so mad. My ma was working on that ward. The surgeon that was Lisa's was the doctor. Thomas and his dad was working on his house.
God.
In what's that road called over the south side?
Aylesbury
Road. Mm-hmm. They were doing a big house there for him. God. Their man Gavin Blake. That was our surgeon. Imagine.
Such a connection.
And they didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
Till we were in Ibiza, that they were like, and my ma was there as well. My ma used to go into her every night and sit with her and talk to her about things. And then they told us in the meeting there was nothing they could do. She was going to hospice. She just wanted to go home to her ma's chair. And she didn't even make it a week. You know what, I'd love her not to just even have the day in her ma's, because she'd been so long. She just wanted to go home to her ma and her kids. Like, she had 3 young kids. And she was 41. It was like, I actually never forget the fucking pain. And she was, yeah, that's all there.
God. Jesus.
Yeah. Sorry, that's emotional. Just always, I don't think I'll ever, like, you know, you miss someone so much. Just, you know, wanted something different for her. She deserved something different. She was a beautiful soul.
Grief is the one thing that I said before that I haven't been affected by it until last year, and it's coming up to his anniversary, and he was robbed from us as well. He had a heart attack. But you know what I was struggling with, that was that when I was posting about him on Instagram and all, I was tagging his wife, because I was like, I shouldn't be this sad, because he was married and he had a wife and kids, so what, like, the cheek of me to be this sad.
Really?
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's a real struggle. That, like, I've struggled with the loss of him, but also, like, I was always giving out to him. Like, I was always having a moment with great crack. But even when he passed, and when I talk about him on Instagram and stuff like that, I sometimes be like, try to be really mindful of her. But we all have our own grief. We all have our own memories as well. And that's something that I have to be...
Absolutely. You know, it's not anyone's pain is their pain. You know, this is always a thing I find with people. And that's how people never kind of, you know... It's like, you know, when you grow up, and there's always someone worse than you. This type of language. So what you do is you invalidate yourself because you think your feelings aren't, you know, shouldn't be there, because this is kind of the language we grew up with. There's always someone worse than you, but whatever you're feeling, it's not going away. Whether you tell yourself that or not, all you're doing is pushing it down. That feeling will remain. You know, more to honour it and acknowledge it and say, and I think it's more, Jesus, that's the love I had for this person. You know, it's all that love, I think, shows who we are as people and the person you are, that you loved him, you know, rather than trying to discredit anything that you've been feeling, Rebecca, towards him, you know. It just shows how much you loved him. So, you know, no one can say how you feel, how you feel, how you feel. It's your feelings.
And grief is a kicker, isn't it?
It's horrendous, you know. The loss of anything is, you know, it's the letting go, and it's... I think what I've started to know about grief is it's all that love that you have. Where's it going? You know, and that's what I think is that you're trying to process, that you can't give when you're letting go of something or someone, you know, and it's hard, whether the person's alive or whether they've passed. You know, there's a grief to losing and saying goodbye to something that you don't want to. You know, if you want it to, it'd be okay.
And then, Yasmin, can I ask you, so you've qualified therapist now and you've clients and everything like that, but you talk a lot about breath work through counselling.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
So, obviously, like, over the last 10, 11 years, being in therapy and being a therapist, obviously, you know, all therapists have their own approach, and nobody can judge anybody for what way they work, if it works for the client. I think for me, like, through me healing, through doing ayahuasca and finding a therapist, which is paramount, I think, is finding a therapist, because ultimately what will be the catalyst for change will be a relationship. You know, you can have all the tools and talk all the lingo. If you don't have a relationship that is developed, then you're not going to open up. You're going to be, you know, if you have any type of trust issues and you don't trust that person. And for me, you know, I sat in front of therapists that, you know, some therapists work, they don't talk. You go in and you talk your 50 minutes and you leave. Some will throw little kind of sayings about whatever. If that works for someone, that works. I found maybe it wasn't really working for me. It was missing big moments for me that I got through ayahuasca and through a therapist I found when I returned. Because you have to have 50 hours of your own therapy done to become a therapist. So I would have done that, and then I would have went back and done another 25, and I was always in and out. I always used to go in a crisis, and then when the crisis was over, I'd say, oh, fuck this, because I'd be getting nearer to something I didn't want to look at, and I'd go, oh, it's not that bad, you're over-exaggerating, you're carrying on, or whatever I'd tell myself, anytime I was touching something that I didn't like. But with the therapist that I found, I loved how she interacted with me, you know. It was a real, genuine connection, and felt like a friendship, and you know, that people just don't really think that you can have with your therapist, and you can. Like, people do think, could you love your clients and all, but you can. And do you think about your clients when you're not with them? Of course you do. You know, they do matter to you. And of course you care for them. People don't just think, oh, you just shut off and all, but, you know, I don't take it necessarily home with me, but of course a client enters my head and I reflect on them and see how they are, and each individual client all has their own little way. But through that type of work that I found with my therapist, that's how I would be as a therapist. I love to interact, you know, it's like a collaboration, and I like that. Because I believe, because I'm a person-centred therapist, I believe that everybody is their own guru, everybody is their own shaman. We just have so many blocks that are in our way to finding ourselves. And if I can be somewhat of assistance in you, finding that yourself, because you have the answers, you know. They're just buried within people pleasing, within shame, within fear. But you remove them and you'll find your answer, because it's there. You know, we're all as powerful as anyone else in the world, I believe. That's why I never kind of would put anybody less or down, you know, comparing, because we are all the same. If you can just remove some of your blocks, the trauma blocks, shit that happened in your life that you've labelled yourself as, you'll find who you are. And I really believe that. And that was when I started doing breath work. I started to really put the mind and the body together, because I found through talk therapy, some clients were staying in a loop, repeating the same story. We need to tell our story. If we've never spoken, your story is fucking so important to you, of why you got here, and to understand your why. You know, if you can understand that's why I do that, then you can begin the process to heal, and meeting that with compassion. But the breath work was taking me and clients into another, removing them trauma blocks, you know, the energy moving up. Because I found more when I started doing ayahuasca and use of plant medicines and mushrooms, I've started to walk really holistically, and I love that. And it's kind of set me on another path that I can see I'm veering towards, which I really like. And through the breath, the results I see in a session, when some of them, that energy comes up, because they can talk, but you need the feeling, you know, the sadness or whatever it is, or the anger. When that comes up and you see it, and that emotional release is there, it's profound. And I'll always be like, wow, when I see that. So combining the two in session has been, it's been really useful for me. And I think the breath is the medicine.
And what, like, is it like it's up there, you're getting them to breathe through it?
So it's a type of breath work. You can use different types. I really like conscious connected breathing, which would be eliminating a pause. So you kind of keep breathing without, like, in a lovely flow kind of way, you know, up through the nose and out through the mouth, rather than breathing through your mouth, which can kind of be activating your fight or flight response. So when you breathe up through the nose and out, you're activating your rest and digest, which is telling your body you're okay. So within that, I've just found that, you know, clients, even without even releasing trauma, it's very healthy for you as well to know how to breathe properly. I mean, for a lot of us, we just take air in. And I would have been really one of them, because I would have been walking out of a lot of trauma responses for a long time in my life. Busy. Have to keep going, you know. My house, like my wart would have been how clean my house was, because my nanny was left, my ma's ma was left with like 8 kids when my granddad died. And so the nuns wanted to take the kids, and my nanny was like, fuck that, no way. So when they'd come up to do inspections to see was she, you know, had her head together, she'd have the place spotless, so everything was scrubbed to an inch of its life. So that kind of generational was brought down through us. So how clean your house was your wart. And I would have held that belief. It's limiting, you know, it's all these limiting beliefs we hold. And I held that until I was detrimental to me at times, you know, screaming the house down like a pig if it didn't, because if I thought someone walked in, oh my God, imagine what they'd say about me. You know, this fucked up mentality.
Do you know when the house we cleaned yesterday, and then there's a few bits around, and I said to Paul, move those clothes, put them somewhere else, and clean that, and he was like, why? He's like, it's always I was like, no, because you're from town. That I swear to God, because my ma, if she knew anyone from town was coming to this house,
no way.
That's that it is. And she'd be like, that house better be spotless. Like, she wouldn't, if someone from Fox Rock or something like that was coming to she wouldn't care. But if someone from town was coming to my house,
that's mad,
she'd be like, so I was like, Paul, just throw those clothes down there, don't let her see those clothes when she comes in.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's mad. And see now, like, I would literally, because I used to say now you can sit, I used to think that rest was like a reward. So when I do X, Y and Z, I keep going, then I can sit down and then I'm entitled to. And now I could literally just walk upstairs have 50 loads of washing on my bed and climb into it.
Yeah.
And I don't give a fuck. Because who's going to do it? Me. Yeah. And I'll do it when I want. That's really like been so good and actually liberating for me to not be so in that frame of mind, to actually let that go and say it's all right. Like my ma was always ma's house was never like, you know, like a show house I ran. But when she wanted cleaned, or if me nanny was coming, we were bet. You had to get the house scrubbed, spotless, because me nanny coming up for the inspection.
It's mad. And I swear to that was it. Do you think, because again what you said there, and I had this conversation with Conor Ryan, you know that young fella Conor Ryan off Instagram, do you know him? He's a big load of followers from, he's lovely young fella actually.
Right, okay.
And he said to me when I spoke to him about therapy, he was like, I went to him but I didn't like her, she didn't like me, so I didn't go back.
Yeah.
Isn't that really like
all the time? All the time. It's like when you meet somebody, it's a hit and miss. Do you know what I mean? It's finding what works for you. And also sometimes when you're not ready, as I said, I used to dip in and out. I'd go in a crisis and I'd run. And you know, it's your beliefs around it. Oh fuck it, what's the point in dealing with this shit? You know, if we don't want to touch that, you know, it's grand, I'm grand, sure, it's grand. You know, you hear people say, sure, smacking them did me any harm, and they're bleeding eating tablets and they're riddled with anxiety, and you're like, okay, yeah. You know, that's always the same. It's when you come to yourself, I think if you have some compassion for yourself, and it is about finding someone that will, you know, you and her and you and him, wherever you work together well. And that's always, you know, the catalyst for change. Well, anyone, you know, is when you can sit in that room and feel seen and heard. That's kind of what it's about, isn't it? And
that's one of the big things I think as well, because me and my mother-in-law, we would have had a very fractious relationship, mainly because she's very past remarkable, and she'd say, I shouldn't get over it, you know, when I would say to her, you know, that fucking hurt me. Like how dare I say, now God, people know me mother-in-law, they know like I love her, but she would be like, how dare I tell her that offended me? She'd be like, get over it. But see, a lot of people are emotionally unaware, you know, and they grew up with that. It's like I always say to clients, it's not about blaming, because generational trauma is huge, you know, it goes right through the lineage. Your ma probably grew up with that. Your ma's my mum. We could go on and on and on. What we do have to say is it's wrong, because when it's wrong, the little girl inside of you then feels validated. But when you say get up and get over it, it's like, okay, my feelings aren't valid. So then you have to tell yourself something about yourself. So if no one's there to say that's wrong, then you then, the little person, decides to make up a story about themselves. I'm not lovable. I must act this way. If a people place, then they all see me. If I'm really good, everyone loves me. And that's the roles then we all take on, because we want to be seen. And attachment for a child is a matter of life and death. They'll do anything, you know, to be seen. So that's, you know, what happens. So when people use that language, it's probably because they grew up with that. Sure, of crying, what you're crying for, stop. It's all the language that you hear, you know, because people couldn't probably use their emotions years ago, and they don't have that emotional availability or that emotional awareness, emotional intelligence, and it's something that takes time when you've grown up with that. But you don't blame, you know, it's about just you validating your experiences. That's it, you know, when you've grown up in relationships that have been kind of, as you were saying, like a bit turbulent, or it's because that person is probably not meeting themselves in that way. And that's what it basically comes down to. You know, so when you can kind of just understand that a bit more and not think it's something to do with you, it makes life you have
a
to
lot
stop.
bit easier. It makes life a lot easier. I would have been like that, you know, felt attacked at times, and because whatever way I was, the beliefs I was holding. Because I think when we see the world through our wounds, you know, it's hard because you're seeing them through. You know, I think we walk 90% or something of our subconscious. That's where your inner child is and all your wounds. So when you're walking through that, you see the world through that, through all them wounds, which can look, the lens can look very fucking, you know, negative. So when you start to work on your wounds and clean that lens, you can see the world better, I suppose. Yeah. And I think from watching you, over, like, and I know you've offered me free therapy. Many sessions did she say she was going to give me?
No, only joke. But I feel that, like, from watching your videos and saying, just say no, put yourself first. Look, I have learned, and I have, like, in some situations in the past few weeks, I have said, no, I'm not going. No thanks. Have a ball. Love it.
God, Rebecca.
I swear to
really
God.
you?
I know.
No, someone else in the room.
Yeah, I have been saying, no, I'm not interested.
Well
no,
done.
thanks. And I have.
And how did it feel?
It feels great. And even, like, whereas if I didn't do something, I'd be like, oh my God, I have to. And then I think about it. And when, like, Paul said to me, come to, I said, no. And he was like, well, and now I've said to Paul, you have to accept that I'm starting to say no to things, or I'm not putting myself in those situations, because when I get into those situations, I'm paranoid. I'm upset. I walk away from it being like, oh my God. So I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. But that is from watching your videos, and even your last one that you put up that everyone has had to share in now, the anxiety one.
And you know, that's so mad. I always think the ones I fucking think into do fuck all or whatever. And then I'm just sitting in the house. I was going to the Tim Morrison workshop yesterday, sitting down, just had been listening to that Delilah pull me out of this, and I'd heard her story about how bad she is with anxiety. It just reminded me of so many people in that place that don't talk about it, that they suffer in silence. Did it, put a little bit in about my own, and I mean, I literally sat in the chair for the night, for whatever the fucking reel is, and I was like, came out after 3 hours of the workshop, and my whole page is like blown up, and I'm like, what? Like 600 followers or something, and like for me, I was like, okay, what the fuck was this about? I mean, it's great, like, but yeah, it's mad as well. That was one of the reasons why I was like, I wanted to do the workshop that I developed as well, like, was because of that, you know, because of women that find it hard to say no.
And that's because that's a big thing for me, but now I am. Tell me this, because I know I don't want to keep it in longer. You're doing a workshop. I'm
doing a workshop, yeah. I've been like, I have like loads of, obviously, you know, majority of my clients are women, and I've heard lots of stories and the backstories, and just so many women, and just talking to women, you know, women, hairdressers, makeup artists saying to me, you know, people sitting in that chair and they're like their therapist, and they're saying, you know, they just haven't got this, you know, emotional awareness, and they don't know about different things, and just even clients of mine. And I just, you know, was thinking, let's reclaim ourselves, let's bring it back to yourself emotionally, sexually. You know, so many women even sexually are so like, they believe like very limited beliefs around themselves sexually, and, you know, asking for it and being okay, and how they even feel sexually about themselves. If they grew up in homes where, you know, it's silenced, and, you know, their body is to be covered, and, you know, they don't, you know, all of that. And I just thought, you know, I wanted to just bring a day of women, like a sisterhood, where women can come and feel safe, and we can talk about their emotional, their sexual, their mental, and their spiritual side, and just reclaim it. And the day is going to be great. I have a beautiful singer coming in, I have an energy healer, and a girl as well, talking all about sexual shame and sexual pleasure, and then I'll be talking as well. And I just wanted to be a real day where women can feel safe and heard, and kind of understand themselves, and just leave with a little bit more even compassion for themselves. I'll feel like I done something good, because a lot of us lack that, just to have a little bit of compassion. We're always just trying to, in the rat race, to get somewhere and putting ourselves down. That's kind of probably the number one where people are suffering bad with anxiety. You know, if you could just understand yourself a bit more, I think it really help you.
What's the Instagram page you're on?
McCree Therapy.
Okay, which means?
My heart. And I called it after my friend who died because of her heart attack. And she died of heart failure. So it's always a big thing for me. Danielle actually gave me that.
Did she?
Yeah.
When's the workshop, and where?
It's in the Clayton Hotel in Cardiff Lane, so it's beside the Boat Gosh Energy Theatre, and it's the 1st of October, 12 to 3. So I'll have a light lunch provided, and just a lovely warm morning, I suppose. I just want people to come together and feel good.
Good. And on that note, we leave it there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin.
Thanks.